Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to follow the journey of a single IT change, from just an idea all the way to a complex live reality. We're going to break down the whole process of change management and, hopefully, turn a pretty intimidating topic into a story that just makes sense.
So let's just jump right in. We've all seen this happen, right? You get a little pop-up for a tiny software update, you click go, and then bam, the whole system grinds to a halt. It really makes you wonder, why do these seemingly tiny, insignificant changes sometimes cause an absolute catastrophe? Well, the answer is in a process that's usually invisible, until it breaks. To really get it, we're going to follow a single change through 4 stages. We'll start with why any change is a risk in the first place, then we'll get into the planning for a safe one, watch it actually happen, and finally, see what it really takes to live with that change in the long run.
First up, why is change so darn risky? See, before you can even dream of adding something new, you have to know your starting point, inside and out. This is all about control, because let me tell you, undocumented changes are a security nightmare just waiting to wake up.
You know, the heart of managing risk really comes down to understanding business processes. Just think of them as the official rules of the road for a company, how you do things. If your process for, say, approving a system update is sloppy, you're basically just holding the door wide open for new security holes to wander right in.
Okay, so if the weak process is the problem, then you better believe strong planning is the solution. This is where we create the blueprint. This is the part that makes the difference between a seamless update nobody even notices and a full-blown, company-wide emergency.
And the very first thing you have to do? Assign a clear owner. Seriously, if nobody is officially in charge of a critical database, who's going to make sure it gets updated? Who's watching its security? Without an owner, things just get forgotten. The owner is the one person who has to answer for it, making sure it stays safe and sound.
Next up, you've got to figure out who all the stakeholders are. And this isn't just the IT department. Nope, it's everyone and anyone who's going to be affected by this change. We're talking users, management, even customers and outside partners. Every single one of them has a different point of view, and they might just spot a risk that everyone else missed.
All right, so you know who's involved. Now you need a real, formal approval process. And look, this isn't about creating a bunch of red tape. It's a series of checkpoints, a safety net. Every step is there to make sure a change is looked at from all angles and gets the green light for all the right reasons.
A huge part of that process is the impact analysis. This is basically the strategic what-if game. You start asking questions like, hey, if we patch this one server, is it going to break the login for our mobile app? It's all about finding those domino effects before you push the first domino.
During this analysis, you also have to set the new security rules, and this usually boils down to 2 different ways of thinking. You have your allow list, which is super strict. It only lets in what's on the pre-approved list. Then you have your block list, which is the opposite. It lets everything in except for stuff that's known to be bad. The big problem with block lists, you can't possibly know about every new threat out there, which makes them way easier for attackers to get around.
All right, the plan is locked in, everything's approved, and now we're at the moment of truth. Time to actually make the change. This is where all that planning really has to pay off. Now, the #1 rule for a smooth rollout is timing. I mean, you wouldn't shut down a major highway at 5 p.m. on a Friday to do road work, right? Same idea here. All this work happens inside a planned maintenance window, think 2 a.m. on a Sunday, to cause as little disruption as possible.
But here's the thing. Even with the most perfect plan, something can go wrong. It's just the nature of technology. And that is why the single most important part of any change isn't the plan to go forward, it's the plan to go back.
And that escape route? It's got a name, the backout plan. This is your step-by-step guide to hit the giant undo button. If the change starts causing problems, this plan is how you get back to the way things were, fast and safe.
You know, the whole reason for all this planning, the late-night windows, the backout plans, is to protect uptime. And in the industry, the gold standard is often called 5 nines availability. It means the system is up and running 99.999% of the time. To put that in perspective, that's about 5 minutes of downtime for an entire year. That's it. And this really shows you the massive difference between the 2 types of downtime. Planned downtime is the good kind. It's controlled, people know about it, and you keep the impact tiny. Unplanned downtime, that's a full-on crisis. It's an emergency that just torches productivity and can cost a company a fortune.
Sometimes the change itself can feel really small, like just restarting a service, the classic turn it off and on again.
But even that has to be planned carefully, because you need to know what other systems are plugged into it so you don't accidentally set off a chain reaction of failures.
So, the change is in, everything's working, but we are not done yet. Not by a long shot. Now comes the part where we manage the new world we've just created. This is about living with the change. One of the most critical things to get right in this new normal is understanding dependencies. Modern IT is like a giant web. One piece of software leans on another, which leans on another, kind of like how a roof needs its support beams. If you mess with a beam without knowing what it's holding up, the whole thing could come crashing down.
And that's why this next part is absolutely non-negotiable. As soon as the change is done, all the records have to be updated. I'm talking tech manuals, network maps, user guides, all of it. If you don't, you're creating these little landmines of bad information that are guaranteed to cause problems down the road.
This quote just nails the kind of chaos that happens when your documentation is out of date. It's not just confusing, it's dangerous. People start making decisions based on information that's just plain wrong.
The system that saves you from all that madness is called version control. Think of it as the official history book for your technology. It's the single source of truth. It tells you exactly what changed, who changed it, and when, making sure everyone is reading from the same script.
And really, that brings us to the big takeaway here. This whole process, from the planning to the paperwork, it isn't about slowing innovation down. Not at all. It's about building a framework that lets you move forward, and move forward fast, but to do it safely. It's about building on a foundation you can actually trust.
Which leaves us with one final thing to think about. We just went through a very human process, right? Approvals, meetings, documentation. But as AI and automation start making changes on their own, how are we going to adapt these core ideas of control and accountability for a future where major changes could happen in the blink of an eye?